Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Talent Views, which is presented by Indotronix. Indotronix is a minority owned business enterprise that provides contingent staffing and direct hire services to large Fortune 500 companies and government entities across North America, UK, and India. Now, each episode of Talent Views features a star from the world of supply chain. Today, our guest is Kathy Perna. She is the Executive Director of the Institute of Supply Management, ISM, the New Jersey chapter. ISM is the world's oldest and largest supply management association. Kathy will be walking us through how ISM New Jersey addresses the professional development needs of supply chain practitioners, suppliers, including diverse suppliers and students of supply chain. She'll also talk about some trends that were discussed at the recently concluded ISM World Conference at Dallas, if time permits. If you have any questions, please put it in the chat and we will try to get to it if time permits, or we will definitely respond by email. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful seeing you today. So in the interest of time, I know I have a lot of questions to ask you, so I'm going to start off right away. So let's start with, tell us a little bit about yourself, essentially how you got involved in this organization.
Well, that's interesting. I actually started out working for ITT Aerospace years ago, and then I left the company because I had children, and then I wanted to get back into the workforce when my son was 5 years old. So at that point, I was looking for a position, and there just happened to be, I was helping out in an office of an organization called National Association of Purchasing Managers for New Jersey. And I actually started helping out in the office 1 day a week. And I always tell people, you never know what a position can lead to down the road. So yes, I'll take the position for 1 day a week, even though I had to drive about 35 miles each way. That was fine. And I ended up becoming the office manager. And then eventually the organization wanted me to work just for them. So I was hired directly. And at that point, what did I do? I formed my own company. So I'm also an entrepreneur as well.
Oh, wonderful. That is not something I knew about you, Kathy.
Yes, a woman-owned business. So I've been in this, so I've had my business for over 25 years.
Oh, wonderful. That's something I learned about you today. So, seeing how you have been involved with this organization for so many years, give us a sneak peek about the evolution of ISM through the decades, how it has changed to address the changing needs of the market.
Definitely. I've been in the organization for 30 years now, and I did see a lot of changes. When I first came in, it was really a predominantly male board. Even though we had maybe 1 or 2 or 3 women presidents, we didn't really see as much women on the actual board, in a director role or in an officer role. And I saw that pivot probably, I would say, in the late 90s is when I saw the change started happening and more women were coming on. I do credit Ginger Kessler-Carlson with me getting more involved because I was just in the office at that time, but she wanted to take me out of the office and let the members get to meet me. And eventually I was an executive manager and then executive director. And because of that, I've been able to see the members face to face that I talk to, that I deal with on a daily basis. So I really credit her for getting me out of the office and actually to really help the members out where I could. So that was actually one of the things I did see. And as I said, I did see a pivot And we actually probably have more women on our board than we have men. But it's nice to see that there is a nice balance. We definitely are very diversified on our board as well, which I think is very, very important. And we are the first organization, well, I would say the first chapter that actually had a Women in Leadership conference.
Mhm. Wow. I'm so glad that Ginger encouraged you to be in front, because I know that ISM New Jersey chapter engages with a lot of very senior procurement professionals across the country. I mean, we've had some amazing speakers through the 10 years that I have been involved with the organization. So before we go into the specifics of what ISM New Jersey offers, talk to us a little bit about the certifications, the educational needs that ISM as an organization addresses.
Definitely. Well, in the past, we had a very robust professional development program. But then as training budgets were declined, chapters were having more trouble putting on those programs. So we are still going to be trying to do some of those in-person programs, and we have done and will be continuing doing some online professional development training programs. But ISM World also offers different types of programs as well. They do have 12 certificate programs in various areas. They do business skills for supply management. They do category and commodity management. They do risk, sourcing, supplier relationship management certificates, but there's 12 programs in the certificate program that members or non-members can actually register for. It is an online program. It is done within, let me see, it's everybody will receive 6 CEUs after completing it, and you also have to take an exam. So you have to take the 25-question exam after each one, and once you complete it, then you get your virtual certificate for completing that particular program. We also have 3 certifications. We have the CPSD, which is Certified Professional in Supplier Diversity. We have the CPSM, which is the Certified Professional in Supply Management. And then we also have, this is a brand new one, the APSM. Now this one is the Associate Professional in Supply Management, and it's only for students. So you have to be a full-time student in order to be able to take that particular exam and get that particular designation.
Wow, that is, so when I was studying supply management, I don't think seems to be a completely new thing that students can take up, like a professional exam.
Exactly. This is brand new. This kicked off, I believe it was probably earlier this year. I think in January or February is when this particular program kicked off. And there are materials that the student can purchase, and then there would be an exam, one exam that they would take. Once they graduate, then they can take the other 2 exams and then become a CPSM.
Okay. So CPSM is something that once you become a practitioner, you start taking that exam.
Exactly. So the CPSM is actually a series of 3 exams in different focus. So you have to take each of those exams. They're each probably about 3 hours long. I don't have it in my head how many questions. I don't have that information on me. But if anybody is interested, please reach out to me, and I will definitely get that information over to anybody that's interested in that particular program.
Thank you so much, Kathy. We will definitely share your email ID if it's okay with you, and also the website details so they can get more information. So now pivoting specifically to ISM New Jersey, the last 3 years, I know that ISM New Jersey really pivoted, considering that it's going to be a remote environment. A lot of programming happened. Talk to us a little bit about that. And if you can also mention the other chapters that have become involved as a result.
Oh, definitely. So of course, 2020 was an interesting year, or interesting month, I should say, to start, because we all thought it was only going to be like 15 days, right?
Uh-huh.
As we could see, it was continuing. I actually talked to my board. I told them I would like to do these webinars that we're doing, but I don't want to charge members or non-members to attend. They're like, why? Well, my feeling was, and the real reason I really wanted to do this program was because I wanted to make sure we kept our supply chain practitioners engaged. We want to keep them engaged, current with new things that were going on, more or less give them maybe some wellness too, because in the beginning, it was fatigue people were having on, because everything was virtual. They weren't used to being in a virtual environment. So one of the programs I did bring to our members was about burnout. And we had a lot of supply chain teams that were burning out across the company. So it wasn't just, procurement. And, so what I did is I came up with this ideal of doing 3 or 4, turned out to be sometimes 5 webinars per month, just because you never know the skill sets that somebody may be looking for or the topics. And we did various topics. As I said, some were well-being, leadership topics. We did a lot of supply chain topics. We did a lot of, on the pandemic itself, we had a lot of supplier diversity, some women in leadership topics we did. We tried to make it very engaging for different types of members that or non-members that wanted to come in and obtain educational content. And all of our programs also always have educational credit. So you do get your continuing educational hour for each hour of program that we have. So that was actually a very important component too, because during the pandemic, there were really some online programs, but I'm not sure everybody was awarding, the CEHs with it. And you really needed that to keep your certification up.
So just to go back to one of the terms that you mentioned, continuing education. So that is CEU, right?
That's a CEU. Yeah, well, they call it continuing educational units or continuing educational hour.
Okay. So now it looks like you really did a lot of a variety of programs over the past 3 years. Is there anything new that you're planning for the upcoming months, years that members and hopefully potential members can look forward to?
Sure, yeah, definitely. One thing I did forget to mention is you did ask me about who is involved in the program itself. And we have about 12 different ISM chapters that participate in our program from all different parts of the state. So we do have a few chapters in Florida, Texas, Nevada, upstate New York. So we have various in Virginia, North Carolina. So we have different chapters that participate in our program on a monthly basis, which is great. What I also think is what was great, what it brought out was the collaboration. So there has been a nice collaboration between chapters that we really never had before. You might have collaborated to the chapter right next to you, but you never collaborated chapters across the US like we've been doing these last 3 years. So that's actually one of the, I think, a very big highlight that we've been able to do. So, and we're continuing to do that. As of today, I received another program from another chapter, and we're sharing it within our partner group so that it actually gets out to so many different members across the US. And what was the other question? Oh, you wanted to know about future events that are coming up.
Yes.
So one of the things we are working on is because we haven't had a CPSM instruction for our chapter in many years because the test was changed. And once the test changes, you actually have to have a certified instructor. And we haven't had one of those to do something for our chapter. And we actually had a leadership workshop, which was prior to the conference, the ISM conference that was in early May. And we are in discussions with one of the chapter leaders who will be wanting to put on one of the CPSM training for various chapters. So we're working on a program that we can do online so that various chapters can then participate in it, and their members will be able to get some educational information and learn and be able to take the exam and hopefully get their CPSM certification. So that's actually an important thing because we haven't been able to do that in a very long time. And I'm excited for this program to begin, where hopefully it'll be in the fall.
That is definitely some really useful information and a good progress in the right direction, right? So thank you for sharing that with us. I myself, in the past 3 years, saw a lot of work where I could network with chapters like ISM Chicago, ISM Rochester, even ISM, one of the Florida chapters. So I know what you're talking about, that it was a great time for chapters across the country to come together. Now I am going to ask something that is of personal interest to me, and that is, how has ISM New Jersey, how have they structured their program so they can be more helpful to diverse and small suppliers? And were suppliers always a part of ISM?
Well, that's an interesting question. First, I'm going to answer the second part first.
Okay.
Suppliers were not always a part of ISM. You had to be a practitioner. So I would say it was probably around the 2000s, might be mid 2000s, that they told us we could actually have suppliers as members. It's just that we have to make sure that the supplier knew when we were at a member event that it wasn't just a selling point, but it was more to network, for coming together. But right now we have lots of suppliers that are members and great educational partners, by the way. So we learn from each other. I think it's great because you have the buyer and you have the seller, but when you can talk to one another and you can learn from each other, I think it actually makes for a better professional all around. And I'm glad that we've been able to do that. It's actually been really interesting the way things have changed over the years, definitely. And what was the first part of your question again?
A specific programming that ISM New Jersey has done for diverse suppliers, or even small suppliers, diverse and small suppliers.
Oh, definitely. So one of the things that we have done actually for over 50 years is we actually started the first minority business development group. So that started in 1972. Of course, long before I joined. I was a little one at that time. But that's actually, they were the prototype that ISM eventually made one of their groups when they had groups and forums. And so we've always had a diversity program since 1972. Usually it's an event that we do in the month of May. That's why we always try to make sure everything is done for diversity in the month of May. That's our particular.
Oh, that is the story behind it. Okay.
That's the story. That's the story. So now we're at the point now that we've been doing, we've had expos and we've had speakers and panels. Now we're doing our showcase. So we actually showcase diverse suppliers. We have a round where we actually solicit for suppliers to send in applications. We review the applications, and then we select our finalists as to who will be performing in the showcase. And we just did this earlier this month. It was great. We probably had over 50 people that attended. It was actually a very nice program. Had quite a few sponsors there as well. And it was great to see the interaction with with our diverse suppliers, because we had diverse suppliers that attended and wanted to view what was going on, or they could have been previous showcase speakers before that wanted to support one another. And I think that's what's really great about bringing the professional, bringing the corporate and the diverse supplier together, because the diverse suppliers have had issues with really trying to meet with them, to really get on that list and to go to the next level, the next step. At the event, we also had, we called it we had a connection, I think it was called Diverse Supplier Connection, where we had a corporate person and we had a diverse supplier talk about how they met at our event previously and now have an ongoing relationship and are working and collaborating together. So it does work.
Yes, absolutely does work. So these, the supply showcase that you talked about, I know that they get feedback, and can you talk a little bit about who are the judges and what kind of feedback, how does it work?
Oh, sure. It's interesting. So this year we have 3 presenters. We have 3 judges. So we have usually we have like one that's considered our moderator, so the head of the judges panel, and then we have 2 other judges. So this year we had Willie Mae VC, and we also had John Perez, and then we had Faye Dunbar. And they're all from different companies, and they have a good background with diverse supplier diversity. So it was important to hear their feedback. So the presenter actually would do their pitch, a 2-minute pitch. So it's like an elevator pitch. So what is, you have 2 minutes, go. So, and they're timed. And then after they complete, or we ring the bell, because sometimes people may go over like 10 seconds or 30 seconds. And then we have time for the judges. So then the judges give their feedback, which is about 8 minutes long. And then we also ask, if we have time allots, then we ask for the audience for any of their feedback. I think it works out really well. People are excited already for next year. So, and I have to say we had a nice sponsor. Verizon sponsored the location, so it turned out to be a very nice event overall.
Yes, it was. And John Perez is such a good proponent of veterans from J&J, and Faith is from Daiichi, right?
Yes. Faith is from Daiichi, and John is from Johnson & Johnson in the military Veterans Affairs program that he runs. But fantastic.
So now I know that ISM New Jersey also works a lot with the student body, the next generation of supply management professionals. Can you touch a little bit upon that?
Sure. Well, we've actually been working with Rutgers University probably over 15 years. And what we've done in the past is we've had a program hosted every other year at Rutgers University. And of course, we had a pause, for 3 years because of the pandemic. But this past year, we had a program at Rutgers University. It turned out to be fantastic. We probably had about 30 or 40 students attend, and our professionals as well. And it turned out to be a really fun but very educational event overall. And to get the student engagement, just to see the questions that they asked the speakers was really, really interesting. And it's nice they're our future leaders. So we really need to engage with them, I learn from them, okay? Because a lot of the questions that they're asking, you got to remember they're getting their degree now in supply chain management. So it's the business school we're talking about. So, some of the things that they're learning might be a little bit different from what we may have learned, because not all of us started out in procurement.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Now, I thought I'll have more time than this, but I have only 3 more minutes. But I do want to hear a little bit about ISM World Conference. It just got over, and I know you get to meet the literal powerhouses in the industry. Tell us a little bit about what was interesting, any trends that you observed. Would love to hear about that.
Well, it was actually really interesting. It was held in Dallas this year, earlier this May, and we had about 1,500 people attend. It was, I thought it was a really, really great conference. Lots of networking. Interesting format this year is they actually had the main stage was the center part of the trade show, and then all the vendors were on the outside. So they made it a different type of environment. Wasn't sure how it was going to work, but it worked perfectly. It worked really, really well. Our opening keynote speaker was George Bush. Very engaging, very funny, talking about world events, of course, Ukraine, Afghanistan. It was interesting to hear his perspective of everything that went on during 9/11 and the aftermath of certain things that transpire after 9/11 and how he had to more or less do his leadership really for the country at that time. Interesting perspective on a lot of different things that he was telling us, but very comical. He was telling us about how he threw the first pitch out at Yankee Stadium and why it had to be Yankee Stadium. It had to be Yankee Stadium. Everybody wanted him to do it in Houston. He said, no, it has to be Yankee Stadium. And luckily, everything worked out well. And he threw out the pitch, and it was a good pitch. That's all they told him. Don't mess it up. It was great. Some of the other things are talking about, of course, AI, machine learning. A lot of AI was focused on, and there were a lot of AI and tech companies there as well. But I have to say the networking was fantastic. We had a session with Susan Walsh. So she more or less talked about cleaning up your dirty data, which she had packed room. So there wasn't one seat to be available in that particular session. Topic that's probably hasn't been looked at that often. And then John Perez, who I just saw the week before, was doing a session on veteran and military. So it was a great panel discussion with the 3 other individuals, and it was nice to see, that the veterans in a diversity space were getting a platform.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. So I have just one last question before I say thank you to you. And that is, I'm curious to know, the World Conference, is that a stage where all parts of the supply chain, that is, would you say it would be useful to suppliers too?
Definitely for suppliers. Now, definitely. I mean, there were a lot of exhibitors, sponsors that are suppliers that attended, but I know that there were other suppliers that attended just as a conference attendee, because I think you do get a lot of value out of it. Plus, you're going to be learning some of the upcoming trends. They also always have an economic session as well. So that, talking about the economic indicators and also the business report that is done by ISM on a monthly basis as well. So a lot of very good, interesting information that definitely was coming out, and also recognizing our Shipman Award recipient, which is done on an annual basis and at the conference as well.
Oh, and that's I should definitely attend one of the upcoming years. So thank you so much, Kathy, for sharing all your insight. I've known you for years, but I still feel like I learned a lot. I knew some things, definitely did not know all the things that you mentioned today. So thank you so much for that. And I'm sure all our attendees enjoyed it as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much for asking me to come on.
Thank you. Bye. And thank you everyone for joining us today. You can get updates about us. Follow us on all social media platforms, Indotronix Avani Group. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.